Hello once again, fellow YouTube auto repair enthusiasts. I'm back again working on the fleet of cars, Tom's fleet of cars. And as I mentioned in a previous video, this is the second project of two on my daughter's 2007 Honda CR-V. We just wired in the two power ports and the LED lights. And as my daughter and I were driving to breakfast the other day, she came up with the dreaded, "Oh Dad, by the way," you know those little things your 18-year-old daughters forget to mention about when something goes wrong with the car? Well, apparently we have a small issue with the door lock actuator. Now, in my one previous video, I misidentified it. It is the driver's side rear door. And here's the symptomology. So my daughter said, "Dad, the door keeps unlocking." And I went, "Really?" She says, "Yeah, I'm driving and the door's unlocked." So as we were driving down the road, I had her hit the lock button. The door would lock, and you know, Hondas have that distinctive clunk sound, a nice solid sound when it locks and unlocks. Well, I watched it, and that I got it all backwards. That driver's rear door locked, and then it immediately unlocked. But it did it in a nice smooth action. It didn't do it as a clunk. So I had her lock it again. Did the same thing. It opened right up. And I'm going to show you how it did this on the video. And I said, well, that's weird. Well, the second symptom was that as you slowed down below 9 miles per hour, if you stopped or just slowed down below that and reaccelerated, the doors would lock again. We have this car set up so that anything above 9 miles per hour, the doors lock automatically. So what was happening was, you'd lock the door. Well, that driver's side rear passenger door would unlock itself. So you'd be driving down the road and you could see the orange. You would be driving down the road, you'd see the orange. You would slow down or stop. You'd get below that 9 mile per hour limit, accelerate above it. The computer senses that, uh-oh, wait a minute, I've got an unlocked door. It would lock all the doors again. If you slowed down below that 9 and went back up again, it would sense it again, because as soon as it locked, it would unlock that rear passenger door. So I did my research, and of course, it happens to be these door lock actuators. This is the third Honda I've had where there have been issues with door actuators. And I'm going to show you exactly what happened. I'm going to get in the car and show you exactly what happened. Alright, so I'm sitting in the back seat, and again, this is the driver's rear passenger door. It's not misbehaving as badly as it did the other day, but watch the lock mechanism. I lock it, and it moves by. Oh, there we go. That's exactly what it was doing the other day. I will lock it again. There you go. And you actually heard the little clunk that time. Lock it again. It unlocks itself. So again, I'm sitting still. If I accelerate to 9 miles an hour or above, it will sense there's an unlocked door. It will lock it again. So it's like a repetitious cycle. And of course, I checked with my expert, Honda-Man, on justanswer.com. Been working with him for years now. And he concluded that it is this door lock actuator. This again is like the third Honda I've had, and these door lock actuators go faulty very easily. Now I went ahead and I looked up the price. I figured, oh boy, it's going to be about $100-something. Looked up the price online, and this door lock actuator was like, I don't know, $46. So I went to my local Honda dealership and I said, will you match that price? They said, no, but we can come close. So my Honda dealership, they charged me $55. So that really wasn't too bad. At least that was $10 or $15 off. That's gas money. And of course I had to pay state tax. If you think about it, had I ordered it online, I'd be waiting on it. It probably would have been $8 or $9 easily in a UPS shipping charge, and I'd have to wait on it. So $55, that wasn't bad. And again, this is something that frequently goes out on these Hondas. Again, this is a 10-year-old car, so not too bad. I'm going to pop outside the car and go back to the engine compartment for a moment. Alrighty, Now, I've gone back to the engine compartment. Always remember your safety rules. I've gone ahead and disconnected the negative battery terminal. I don't want anything firing off on me while I'm in there. There are airbags all over this car, so I don't want to short anything by accident. That wiring is usually, pretty bright yellow and identified as an airbag, but I don't take a chance. I just go ahead and unplug everything. And you need to leave this negative battery terminal off at least 3 minutes. Oh, also, let me remind you that many of these Honda cars, they have an anti-theft device built into the radio, and if you take the power off, you'll have to re-enter the code. I have not found the code written anywhere in this car. So I've done some research. We were trying to find it on my son's 2008 Honda Accord yesterday. And there were some directions that said, take your key, put it in ignition, turn it to accessory. Make sure the radio is off. Take the key, put it in the accessory, turn the power on. Hold button 1 and 6 down, and then push the button to turn the radio on, and it will give you like some kind of a code that starts with a U and another one that starts with an L, something to that effect. You take the U and L away, and that gives you like this 5 to 6 digit code. That's what you punch in. Well, we also found out there's also a lot of a residual charge in some of these cars, so it could take quite a while for that to happen. We kept pulling the fuse, and we would disconnect the battery, and the radio kept working. So that was one technique. And in this case, you can probably do the same thing. I think it said 2007 vehicles and up. So I do have the code, but I'm going to try that technique and see if it'll work in this car, because this is going to be off for at least an hour or so. I'm going to try that technique, see if it works. So how do you find, once you find that code, what's the easiest way to find it? What you're looking for is the serial number of the actual radio. And Honda has a site that you can go to, and you put in certain information, one being the serial number of the actual unit, which is what you're trying to enter for that code, and it'll give you the code. So if you don't know this other technique, what happens is you got to slide the radio out and look for the serial number. That could be a real pain because you got to take the dash apart. So I will try that technique when I hook things back up. Hopefully I will be able to do that, and we'll see if it's successful on this vehicle. So let me go and open the door, and we're going to start working on removing the door panel. Now I've already done my research, and I can tell you where most of the screws are, and you've got to pop these little panels. You're going to have to pop this little panel first. Then you're going to have to come back here. There's a little panel to pop here. There's at least 1 or 2 screws there. There's a little panel here that you've got to pop, and there's at least 1 screw there. And then over here and over here, 2 little panels that pop out, and there's some more screws. So I'm going to take those apart, and I'll give you a close-up of that. Once you get those screws out, there's pins, those plastic pop pins all along the bottom here. And you start at the bottom and work your way up, and then you can lift this up. So let me go ahead and pop those little panels. Alright, so I've got the little panels off. Again, here's the first one. It's just 2 little push pins. You just take a tool for removing, car panels. You get a cheap set for like $7 or $8 at Harbor Freight, but you've got the trim panel removal tools, and pop that off. That pops off very easily because this is going to have to slide up. You don't have to take the screw out, it's just this panel will have to slide up. Then there's this one here, and you see there's a little bit of a tab on that and a couple of wings there, so it'll have to come this way. And what I had to do is I used small screwdriver and a little bit of a hook. I found the small screwdriver fits that perfectly. So that one popped out. Then there's this one here. But there was no notch. I said, well, that's interesting. There's no notch to grasp. Well, put that over here on the garage floor. It's more like a little rubber. So it came out very easily. It's got some wings on it, and obviously somebody spilled something in there before, but it's more rubber. So there was no notch to stick it in there. It just popped right up with that little pick. That's some Stanley picks I got. Nice little set I got at Walmart some time ago. Now, over here, these are actually hinged here. So, now they'll be, I may have to get a flashlight on this one. So I pop that little panel off, and then let's get underneath here. And this little panel off. And let's see if I can get a good bead on things. There you go. So see, there's the one particular screw. Make sure you keep your screws all in their relative locations. And again, this one, let me get the flashlight and we'll visualize that one. Alright, as I suspected, see the hole? The screw is missing. Now, I suspected somebody had been in this door panel before because I could see here where it looked like someone had taken a screwdriver and opened it up. And down here too. So somebody's been in this door before and they forgot the screw. Alright, so let's pop this door panel off and see what I've got. Alright, at this point I have the screws out, but I'm going to show you a couple of tricks. Because I'm also working on a gravel driveway, I guarantee you're going to drop a nut or a bolt or something and never find it again. So I put cardboard down. Old cardboard box. Also, I have magnetized the end of my screwdriver to keep things from falling, hopefully. And I got this at like Lowe's. It's a magnetizer or demagnetizer. You stick your screwdriver in there and you can magnetize and demagnetize it depending on what you want. Since I'm not dealing with sensitive electronics, I'm not worried about magnetism or sparking. So, I don't know, it's $5 or $6 I think at Lowe's. Great little device. Again, especially when you're putting things back in, like in a dash with a radio, magnetize it and then put your box down. Alright, let me pop this panel off. Alright, a couple little tricks here. I did find some evidence that somebody's been in this panel before. See the moisture barrier? It was out of place. And I found some McDonald's Monopoly pieces inside. Okay. Yeah. I wonder if they've replaced that actuator before. Now, when I pull this apart and lift it up, there's not a lot of space. You have about this much space. This fits into the panel this way. It's got some clips on the back side, and I'll show you that fit here and here. There's also a small tab down here at the bottom. You have to push it this way while pulling the panel this way. Let me show you. Right there. One clip there, and that little piece that on the bottom, there's a little clip you have to push this way so you can push all this out. So you have to push this way in order to get it out, push that way to get it back in. Usually it's held by screws, but in this case it's not. Then there's also a connector here. This is the power connector right here. You see that black plug. See if we can zoom in on that a little bit. There's your power connector. Now at the bottom there's a tab. Let me show you that. There's a little tab right here. And it's on the bottom, it's kind of hidden. So I turned the panel 45 degrees that way so I could see the bottom. Again, there's not a lot of leeway there. And I push that tab and pulled it out. So now let's get to dismantling a few more things. I'll have to pull this down a little bit. That's soundproofing, but it's more moisture than anything else. Moisture barrier. So, there was also a plug right here. I disconnected that, and you can't mix them up. They're two different style, so you can't mix it up. There's your actual actuator right there, that white box. Now, I've also read you've also got to remove these 3 bolts. Excuse me, I just had the flu last week, bad case of it, and I'm getting over it. So you've got to remove those 3 screws, and this holds the window channel in. You'll have to remove that. You don't have to remove the window channel, but you have to remove that to move things out of the way to get this entire plastic mechanism out. Now, I watched a guy on a mechanic on a YouTube video when he was doing this, and these things are in tightly, very tightly. And so he used one of those manual impact wrenches like you have to use on the Honda Phillips head screws on some of their disc brakes. Well, man, you have to bang those things. He actually ended up stripping one out. I have a set of Bosch, it's a impact wrench, impact hammer, small one, and it looks like a drill, but it's an impact wrench, and then one's a drill. So I'm going to show you that, and that's what I used. It's for jobs like this. I didn't strip anything out. It took about 3 pops of that little thing, and these things backed out. So let me get that out of my truck, and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so here are the 2 styles. Here's the manual style. You put your adapter on and whatever bit that you need, and you bang the heck out of it and twist at the same time. That's the manual method. Here is my little Bosch 12-volt impactor. It's got the 1/4-inch shank, hexagonal shank. Let's see if I can get that out one-handed. Put my knee on it there. Snaps in, and I put in a Phillips head. Put in the Phillips to the proper size. Put that in there, leaned into it, and it took about three pops. And it's like an impact wrench. You'll hear it go tut 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 tut. It'll rattle. And it took about 3 times per screw, and out they came. Well worth your money. I just got my son a set of Milwaukee's for his job. So, you know, it's been worth every dime I spent on these things. Let's put this tool to the test. I remembered too, there is another bolt here that needs to be removed that holds this whole mechanism in, and he had to do the same thing there, and he kept hitting and hitting and didn't have anybody behind it, which I always hate putting that kind of stress on those hinges. So that's a fairly large bit. I don't know if it's number 2 Phillips, but it's a fairly large bit that goes in this, and let's just see how it works. There you go. 1 pop. Good little tool. Get you one. So that way I don't strip anything out. Now I'm going to go and remove the window channel bolt, and that's just a hex head. Well, guess what? When I put these 3 screws back in, I put them in fairly firmly. Let's run another test. There we go. There we go. So a little technical snafu there with that switch. I haven't used it in so long, trying to get the switch to work, but works quite well. All right, so we're getting a little closer. Now right here, there was a little black plug. You're going to need to pop that out, because when you look inside, you're going to see the rod that you're going to have to push back. Get a good shot. Well, let's do it from that side. Maybe that'll be better. Alright. There's a little rod in there. See that rod? You're going to have to push that back in a second. But before you do that, Honda's mechanism, it's a clip mechanism. If you look right there, you see that little clip. Now that little clip is going to have to be pushed back toward me. Take a long screwdriver, pop that off, and then you'll have to use a tool to go in the hole and push back this way to pop the rod out of the rest of the plastic insert or nylon insert. So I have learned over time what you do is you spray some WD-40 on those things. They break very easily. Again, this is a 10-year-old car, and those things will pop off a whole lot easier. But the reason for pulling that plug out, again, is you're going to have to, through there, is you're going to have to take a tool and pull this thing back this way to pop it out there. So you'll have to pop the first part off, move it this way, and then move it this way. And that's why they put the hole there for you. So let me work on that. Alright, I reached up in here, and now you see I pushed it to the left, and the next thing I'll work on is pulling the rod back toward me. As you can see, that snapped off. And I went ahead and just used silicone. I figured if you don't have silicone, you could use WD-40. But silicone you can also use in the tracks of your window to lubricate so the windows will move up and down. But you can see, get a good focus there, get a good bead on things again. Let's see. So, there we go. Now, let's see if I can get the rod out. Alright, so that one provided a mild challenge. You can see the hook, where it hooked at. Let me go from underneath here. Right there. And so, there it is. What I had to do, and see it snapped right in there, it was easier if I took this big 90-degree hook. Again, sacrificial tool from Harbor Freight, and it popped right out. It's just so much easier when you've got silicone or WD-40 on it. You could probably do it with your fingers, but this just popped right out. You gotta be careful. You don't want to break the plastic holder, because what it's connected to, the plastic holder, is the back side of the door handle. So now I'm gonna move the window track out of the way inside, and then see if I can slide this whole mechanism out. Alright, so it was a bit of a pistol getting that out. Alright, now that's better. Alright, so removing that is wiggly jiggly, to say the least. Now, if my finger is the window channel, on this far side, or the outside, was the actual rod, and the mechanism was on the inside. So I had to make sure when I pull this thing I would go down and over a little bit, because again, between the rod and the actual plastic body is the window channel. So you just have to flex things a little bit. Don't bend it too much, but just work your way out, and you have to turn towards you and get it down and out. It takes a little finagling. This is what the unit looks like when it's out. Now, here's the new one. Here's the old one. And you know what I didn't know, and I just discovered, and I said, well, do I have, crap, something's in the way here. Okay. Now, what I didn't know was, there's a plastic panel on top of here to cover the mechanism up. Now, I knew that you had to pop these cables out of their stays, here and here, so I've already sprayed that with silicone. Here's another one of those clips. I sprayed that with silicone. You've got to pop it this way and then pop it this way. And this one's just like a 90-degree angle times 2, and you lift up and pull that out. But you've got to remove these first. Now you see these little rubber gaskets. Well, that's just kind of like anti-vibration stuff. Well, this was held on by 2 very small screws, Phillips head, here and here, and very delicately pop that off. And I'm going to peel off as much of this as possible. Once I get everything back here in its proper perspective, I'll put this back on. Again, you have to peel these off very carefully. They don't really sell a gasket set. But if you had to, you could go to Lowe's and get some of that real thin window trim and substitute for that. Don't make it too thick. Just the real thin stuff and put it on there. But I think I'll do okay with this. Alright, so there's everything disconnected. That'll go straight in, and that's that one that's a couple of bends in it, a couple of 90s. Up that way. Alright, let me snap that back together. Everything's snapped back together. One snap there, that snap, goes in, it goes in and then snaps over, and then that snaps in. So I'm going to put the plastic case back on now. Alright, everything's back together here. Now I also decided, because this stuff is very thin, I peeled that off and put that back on after I put the lid back on. I went ahead and put some electrical tape on there to kind of hold that on. Like I say, you couldn't really find a kit per se. I bet they want you to buy this whole little plate for those seals to come on. And again, it's real thin, so I just ran out of time today. I'm trying to get this back on the road for my daughter. I would have gone and bought some more thin double-sided tape or single-sided tape and put that on there. Now this little panel here, it was a little bit of a hassle. It has to fit right up under here and right up under here, and so it has to kind of work its way in this way. Just be very careful. There was a little pin right under here that fits in a receptacle, so you don't want to snap things off. And again, it was only the 2 screws, and I just put that on there to keep it in there. It's not going anywhere. Alright, let me see if I can get this thing back in. Oh, be mindful the whole time that you don't snap this off. This is your rod. That's plastic too. So be very mindful. Alright, let me get this thing back in. With a little bit of persuasion, I got it back in. Now what I did is I put this in, and I put the 3 here just to kind of hold it in place. I'm not going to tighten it down quite yet because I've got to push the rod in and then snap the clip over that. Alright, you can see the rod is in, clamp is on. Now I'll put the plug back in and tighten up some of these bolts, and I've got to remember to put the bolt in for the window channel. Alright, so let's get this weather shield, moisture shield, whatever, back on. Now I'm going to introduce you to a product. You go, gosh, Tom, how's this stuff going to stick? Man, this stuff is old, and you know, they tore the hell out of it. Well, let me introduce you to a product that I've known about for a long time. Mechanics call it dum-dum, D-U-M, D-U-M. But if you go and ask somebody at an auto parts store about some dum-dum, they get rather insulted. Why are you calling me that name? You're not calling them a name. It's just a product. But the actual product is called 3M Strip Caulk. And yeah, they intentionally misspelled caulk. There's a missing U. I got this at O'Reilly's, and this is like 20 yards, more than I'll ever need, 60 feet by 1 foot lengths. This is great stuff for sealing this up. Many moons ago, I had an 81 Volkswagen Rabbit that kept dripping from the condensation of the AC unit off the drainage tube into my compartment. So a lot of the dealerships may have this stuff, but they're not willing to give it up. So I was able to form a little U-channel and then put this dum-dum around it and seal it up. This is how you seal things up in engine compartments. It's flexible and it's moisture proof. So I'm going to, I've already put some here, I'm going to reseal this by using that. Now what I used to do was use that $5 sink and tub caulk from let's see, that was GM, I believe. You could get it $5 a tube at Lowe's, Walmart, Home Depot, and that was okay. But this stuff is resealable, so I'm going to reseal all this to keep the airflow and moisture out. Great stuff. If I didn't say, I think it was like $20 a box, but I have given it to friends, and they've used it for various purposes, so it was well worth the money. Alright, nice and pretty. Got that all back together. Now, while I was in the house, I'm sorry, I have to take frequent breaks to blow my nose. Like I say, I had the flu a week and a half ago, and it took me out, and this is the remnants of the flu. So let me go back again. I used the dum-dum all around the edges. I used a little dielectric grease here and here. I put that screw back in here. I put the plug back in here. I went down here and I put the window channel bolts back in. You don't have to tighten that very much. It's like 7 foot-pounds, which is minimum. Put the 3 screws back in here. I just used my impact wrench. Again, I'm not sure how much torque is on that thing, but it's not a tremendous amount. So I torqued that, and I used the torque wrench on this bolt to hold it in. So now, let's see. Oh, and I just had a thought. on my previous video where I wired in my power ports at the front. I said I was going to use some silicone caulking to fill that hole where it ran through the firewall. Duh! I've got my dum-dum. I've got my strip caulk. That's easier to get off. I can seal the hole. It's easier to get off than the silicone caulk if I have to add another wire. Wasn't thinking, guys. Woulda, shoulda, coulda kind of moment. So I'm going to go ahead and put the panel back on. Whoops, had my finger in the way. Sorry. So I got the panel back on. Relatively easy. Now remember that when you put this piece back in, you have to push it in this way because there was a clip there. Now the clip, the electrical clip down here, it was easier to turn the panel this way 45 degrees and you could push it in. You could see where the tab is. Then turn it back 45 degrees, snap this in. There are no screws holding this except here. And you have to, it's a tight fit, but you have to lift it up and slide it down. Now I've had to go back and wash my hands a bunch of times too because you don't want that greasy stuff all over your upholstery. So you can see I've got some more on there. Now what I'm going to do is, let's just see. That seems to work. Here's my child lock. Well, we know that the door opens and closes, right? So I've done something right. Now I'm going to go ahead and reconnect the battery before I start putting all the screws in. Reconnect that battery, and we'll do the radio thing and see if we can get the code to come up on the radio. See if that works in this case, because this has been a good couple of hours I've been working on this. So let me reconnect things and we'll do the radio thing, and then we'll check and do the electrical part on the lock. Alright, let's see what the radio says. Enter code. So, let me see, I'm going to have to, I don't know how to mount this so I can do this, but I'm going to try push 1 and 6. Let's turn the power off. Turn that off. I'm going to push 1 and 6 and the power button. Alright, so power off here, power off the radio, and I'm going to put this camera down. Let's see if we can at least see what I'm doing, hopefully. If I angle it up a little. Alright. Don't have my little stand with me. Well, this is not the best situation. Let me turn this thing off and I'll do that procedure. It worked. Serial number. Uh-oh. It just went out. Let me try it again. I'll do it a little bit faster. But I just don't have enough hands. Okay, well I discovered something else. I guess you get one quick shot at it, because it still says enter code. The code was up there momentarily, but you get one shot at it apparently. So I guess I'd have to disconnect the battery, leave it for X amount of time. Not sure how long that is, simply because there are capacitors and buses, and it could take, you know, 3 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. I'll have to experiment with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now get in the back seat and do the door, see how the door works. Okay, here comes the test. Now I'm going to lock the doors. Oh, so good so far. Unlock the doors. And you know you have to hit it twice to unlock the back door. Let's lock the doors. Nothing's moving. Looks good. That tells me it was the actuator the whole time. Okay, lock the door one more time. As you can see, you don't see any orange. It's not moving. Unlock it. Lock it. And there you go. So I'll have my daughter drive it, and it shouldn't continue to lock the door, because now the signal's going to say, I have a locked door. So let's see. Let let me shut this off for now, and I'm going to work up, like I say, my tool list and what everything was involved. Boy, I cannot talk today again. Just a basic tool list and everything that I needed, and we'll end this video. Oh, there was the automatic lock about 45 seconds after you unlock the door, so we know that works. If you don't open or close a door and you unlock the car, what it'll do is it'll, in 45 seconds to a minute, it'll lock itself automatically. That way, if you had to go back in the house and you forget to lock the door, the car's not unlocked. Now, it won't do that with the keys inside in the ignition. Now, I've got the keys in my hand right now, so it did lock with the keys inside, but not with them in the ignition. Let's back out there. All right, I'll be right back. Got a little bit ahead of myself. Don't forget to put in all your screws. Snap that panel on. 2 screws here. Put that little panel back on. I'm going to find on the Honda site what screw that is, and probably get one at Lowe's. Don't forget that one. And don't forget this one, but I got to clean this out. Somebody spilled some Coke or something in there. That's nasty. So put that screw in and do that one. And do not forget, check your window. Make sure everything's working okay. Now I went ahead and sprayed some silicone down in here. That's kind of routine maintenance down on the tracks there. So up and down, there we go. Alright, let me go inside, and then I'll come back, like I say, we'll do an assessment of the tools. Here's basically everything I used. So, a couple of different screwdrivers. You know, I got a big flat blade. That smaller Phillips was the one to take the screws out of that little plastic plate on the actual actuator. Regular size Phillips, then a regular size screwdriver, a couple of hooks. That just made it convenient. That small screwdriver to get those little plates off. Can make a screwdriver there to reach in those tight spaces. Knife, electrical tape, silicone. There's my impact wrench. There's some dielectric grease. Here's the 3M strip caulk. Panel moving tool. You can do the same thing with a screwdriver. Just wrap it up in some tape so you don't mar things. Oops, sorry. There's the coffee. Essential part of working on a car. Here is the actual old part. I may tear it apart just to see what's inside. And in this case, the part number was Honda 72650-SWA-A01. I was able to get a little discount at my local dealership. That was like $55 plus North Carolina state sales tax. Let's see, what else can I think of? Oh, here's a little secret I found out. So again, I always put a shout out to my guy on justanswer.com, honda-man.com. Been using him for several years now. This is like the 3rd Honda I've worked on with him. And he led me to a site called techinfo.honda.com. techinfo.honda.com. Now that is the site that they have access to, but you can also have access to it too for a short period of time. You can either pay $10 for a day, $50 for a month, or $350 a year. And there are times, what I find extremely useful was the fact that it showed me where all the pins and connectors and snaps were on this project and my other project when I rewired the 2 power ports. And it was PayPal. $10 for the day. You just have to do a little searching. Once you get on there, do a little searching, but $10 for a day? Wow, that's incredible. And you're getting the same information that the techs get. Toyota, you need to step up your game here. I've got Toyotas too. I love Toyotas. I love Hondas. But as far as I know, Toyota doesn't have the same thing. And they really need to step up their game. $10 was cheap. I mean, you can go out and spend $30 on a Haynes or Chilton's manual. No offense. But for the short stuff, $10, even for the month, $50 to me is pretty expensive considering all the things that you can find in there to repair. And I had just, like I say, done the other project. Well, I think that's about it. I'm losing daylight again, and I've had a few days off from work. I've got to go back to work tomorrow. Mama needs new shoes. Dog needs new shoes. Kid's going to college. The youngest kid's going to college in a few months, and that's why I'm fixing this car up. She'll be going up to the mountains of North Carolina to go to school, and I want to make sure that everything is the way it should be. I'll probably have another project, I'm sure, because I'll get the "oh Dad, by the way" conversation from her again. But I have a good kid. She at least knows to tell me about these things. I hope this video helps. I do it just because I like to, and I like jibber jabbering. But I hope this helps, and if it'll save you some money, I figure this job would be $300 at the dealership. You know, a couple hours labor, and then the price probably would have been $20, $25 more. So it's not a hard job. It's just a little finagling and some of the simple tools. Just remember my credo: I'll fix your car, but it won't go far. Bye.